The story took place sometime in January of 2008. I'll give you guys a bit of context first. When I was in college, me and my best friend decided to arrange to become roommates. For privacy reasons, we'll name him Conrad for this story. He's very tall, about 6'6", and he can seem pretty intimidating at first. But he's a really cool and well-educated dude when you get to know him. But we have joked amongst ourselves and with our other friends that he would make the perfect monster or creature character in horror movies. Anyway, when we became roommates, Conrad warned me that he had sleepwalking issues. For example, he told me that sometimes when his alarm would ring, he would get out of bed without really waking up, turn his alarm off, then go back to sleep. So with that, it was never really a big deal to me until one night where he had a pretty disturbing sleepwalking episode. It was in the middle of the exam week, and all the tests we had to take really stressed us out, so I was really happy to finally flop onto my bed and get as much sleep as I could for the following day. I plugged my phone in, turned out the light, and fell asleep pretty quickly. I woke up to the pitch darkness of my room, which is strange because normally I'm a pretty deep sleeper, so I had no idea what woke me up. I groggily scanned my room for anything out of place. Nope. The only thing illuminating my room was the tiny little flashing orange light of the monitor on my desk, indicating that it was in sleep mode. Normally, it wouldn't bother me, but considering that I'm somewhat afraid of the dark, a tiny little orange light blinking in what looked like a void was a bit of an eerie sight. I jumped when I heard a knocking on my door, but I was still tired, so I didn't know if I just hallucinated that. I rubbed my eyes and waited, hoping it was just a hallucination. But to my horror, a few minutes later, I heard it again, a bit more aggressive this time. Now I was freaking out a bit. No one was knocking at our dorm room door. The knocking was too close and too loud for that. This was someone knocking at my door. The only person that could be knocking on my door this late was Conrad, and I couldn't imagine for the life of me why he could be up at this hour. Conrad, is that you? No answer. Nervous, I slowly got out of bed and walked to the door. I looked at the crack under the door to see if he turned on any lights in our kitchenette. Nope. I didn't hear him walk away, so that meant he was standing at my door, also in pitch darkness. I remembered him letting me know that he had a sleepwalking issue, so I thought maybe this was one of his more severe episodes. But honestly, I had no idea what to expect. I decided to put my ear on the door to see if I could hear anything. Again, nope. It sounded like no one was even standing at my door, and that I was just being a paranoid bastard again. Well, I wouldn't have known for sure unless I checked myself, so I ignored the growing pain in my stomach, grabbed the handle with a now sweaty hand, and swung the door open. I had no idea whether to be relieved or worried when I saw that no one was there, but I poked my head out and checked the nearly pitch-black kitchenette, and had to hold back my scream as I saw Conrad standing in front of his own door staring at the ceiling. Jeez, dude, what are you doing? You scared the crap out of me. I tried to control my breathing and expected him to say something, but when I looked back up at Conrad, it didn't seem like he reacted to me at all. He just kept staring at the ceiling, still facing his door. Then, I saw where the knocking noises were coming from. He wasn't knocking at my door, he was knocking at his own door. He didn't even register that there was no one in his own room to open the door for him, but he still stood there. I should have gone back into my room and locked the door, but instead I stood where I was, watching him, waiting for him to do something else. After what seemed like an eternity, he started knocking at his door again. But he kept on knocking, and the knocking got louder, faster, and more aggressive. I sat there in horror as he was furiously pounding on his door now. I didn't even know how to react. And he was still just staring at the ceiling. After a while, I went up to him and started shaking him and pleading for him to stop. Then, he did. I watched as a really wide, almost inhumanely wide grin spread across his face as he slowly turned his head to look at me. His eyes were wide open, and it felt like he was staring into my soul. "What are you doing, man? There's no one in there to open the door for you." His eyes remained wide open, but his grin slowly disappeared from his face. His hand slowly reached for the handle on his door, and without taking his eyes off of me, his entire body flinched as he twisted the door handle really hard, almost ripping it right off the door. I jumped and took a step back, and watched as his door slowly creaked open. Then he slowly turned his body to face me. He sat there, staring at me for what felt like hours before he spoke.
"It is difficult to understand the length it goes to remain short-standing on what said a job interviews forms a lasting impression. The fox and the tablet whispered into the ear of the rabbit. She saw the brick lights, but not in time."
That's when I decided to slowly back up into my room and lock the door. I have no idea how long he stood there, muttering random sentences in a voice that wasn't even his. But at some point, pure exhaustion overcame me, and I fell back asleep. I woke up the next morning to the sunlight shining through my blinds. I was a bit hesitant to exit my room again, but when I did, I found Conrad in his room already busy on his computer. He seemed fine, but I wanted to question him a bit about what happened last night. "Hey dude, you doing okay?" "Yeah, why?" "You were acting really weird last night. What were all those things you were saying?" Conrad gave me a strange look. "What are you even talking about, bro?" "I woke up to you knocking at your own door, and when I came outside you started rambling on about interviews and skeletons and light switches and stuff." I thought that Conrad had no recollection of doing any of that, because he told me that sometimes when you have a sleepwalking episode, you wake up not remembering what you did the night prior, but what he told me next just shook me to the core.
That wasn't me, dude. I was at my girlfriend's house last night, and check it out, she even gave me a few decent-sized hickeys, see? She's honestly the best, dude. She's kind and sweet to me, she treats me good, and she's so hot. Maybe I'll introduce you to her sometime.
I couldn't even pay attention to whatever he said after that.
Just kidding about.
I remember nervously chuckling a few times, but that's it. I've told this story to a few people before, and most of them conclude that I hallucinated everything due to exhaustion and lack of sleep, but that seemed a bit too real to be a hallucination. I do believe in the paranormal, but I still don't really know how to explain what happened that night. Maybe I did hallucinate everything, or maybe there really was an entity in there with me. But there's still one question that I don't like thinking about, and that is what would have happened if I decided to stick around in the kitchenette any longer instead of retreating back to my room.